The journey of a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier, from dry dock silence to the thunder of its sea trials, is not merely construction. It is the forging of sovereign will. What begins as hundreds of thousands of tons of steel, inert on keel blocks, transforms into engineered potential. This final launch phase is a precisely choreographed sequence, meticulously designed to eliminate uncertainty and certify unmatched readiness. A single missed detail invites disaster. Precision births the most powerful vessel on Earth. Hull construction within the colossal dry dock anchors this sequence. These aren't just decorative panels, they are watertight lifelines dictating survival in storms or strikes. Structural integrity is paramount. The keel, the ship's backbone, was laid long ago. Now the full hull takes shape through modular construction, massive prefabricated blocks surgically welded into place. But the skin is only the beginning. Major internal elements, engines, generators, shaft lines, rudders, and critical conduits are installed. Imagine a body gaining its vital organs before its first breath. Technicians swarm, verifying every alignment, grounding, pressure tolerance, and structural load. This meticulous process ensures the carrier will not fail catastrophically at sea. A present flaw could mean future fatalities. A nation's enemies often underestimate this fundamental, almost surgical precision. The dry dock float-out marks the carrier's first encounter with water, a moment of undeniable truth. With hull completion, the dry dock seals and high-pressure pumps flood the basin. Slowly, deliberately, the steel giant rises, propelled only by buoyancy, guided solely by physics and design. This is more than functional. It is symbolic. The ship's first true breath. The Navy observes it as a solemn rite of passage. Tugs and winches maneuver the colossal vessel into a wet basin. Lacking combat systems or full electronics, its buoyancy confirms fundamental design success. The hull holds. Ballast is balanced. The basic physics of survival at sea are now irrefutable. Any structural deviation here, a list, a sag, would necessitate costly redesign, a delay adversaries rarely factor into their strategic calculus. Its continued stability declares its status, now a vessel, not merely a structure. Moored at the fitting out key, the carrier enters its most intricate phase, systems integration. Hundreds of compartments become a battlefield of parallel efforts. Pipes, wires, ducts, consoles, elevators for weapons and aircraft, radar arrays, catapults, arresting gear, communications, antennas, all are installed. This is not just installation, it is a symphony of integration. Every system must function both independently and in absolute unison. A radar failure impacts air operations. A minor HVAC component issue compromises weapons rooms. The stakes are a chain reaction. Every domino must fall perfectly into place.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
Power comes online, incrementally, just enough for lights, computers, pumps. Propulsion systems begin cold testing. Fire suppression activates. Even crew quarters, galleys, and medical bays are completed and inspected. This phase, often stretching over a year, concludes only when every system passes its pre-trial metrics. For those who believe in shortcuts, this painstaking reality is a harsh lesson in inevitability. Before venturing into open water, the ship endures basin trials, proving its fundamental operational systems in still water. Machinery trials commence. Engines start, shafts rotate, steering gears move, electrical generators sync with shipboard loads. Temperatures, vibration, and pressure are measured to the decimal. Then, systems trials. Firefighting systems are pressure tested. Ballast pumps, dewatering systems, bilge alarms, and backup generators undergo timed evaluations. Emergency shutdowns and simulated fires are executed. Navigation systems power up. Anchors deploy and recover. Even rudder deflection is meticulously logged. Most critically, safety protocols are tested. The crew practices general quarters, evacuation procedures, and damage control. Every life-saving measure, in the face of missile strikes or engine room fires, begins here, long before true danger manifests. Adversaries, dreaming of vulnerabilities, often overlook this bedrock of preparation. Builders' sea trials represent the crucible. This is the first voyage into open water, authorized only after basin trials yield unequivocal success. Under shipyard command, not yet a Navy asset, the carrier faces its final exam. This isn't merely a test of the vessel, it is an interrogation of propulsion, combat systems, sensors, command, and control. High-speed runs push engines to full power, followed by crash stops. Engines to reverse, emergency braking protocols engaged. The hull's response is meticulously measured. Any deviation in turn, radius, drift, or pitch is documented. Maneuvering trials involve hard turns, rudder stress, and propulsion asymmetry drills, simulating combat evasions. Navigation systems are rigorously checked for redundancy, GPS failsafes, radar return speed, and sonar mapping, each layer validated. Aviation system testing follows. Aircraft elevators operate under full loads. Arresting gear tested with deadweight sleds or even early test aircraft. Catapults pressurized and fired. These are not merely mechanical tests. They are life tests. Every pilot who will land on this deck will wager their life on these systems. Real-time fault logging is critical. Every vibration, delay, or false alarm is documented. Engineers and Navy inspectors collaborate, adjusting parameters, running secondary tests, flagging deficiencies. If something breaks, and it often does, it is fixed and retested. Builders' sea trials are not about perfection. They are about unyielding transparency, proving the ship's battle-worthiness before its crew ever steps aboard. The unyielding scrutiny here ensures no unpleasant surprises emerge when the stakes are infinitely higher. The tension during this phase is immense, fueled by the $13 billion cost and profound strategic implications. A single missed flaw could lead to catastrophic systems failure during wartime, a catapult malfunction, a propulsion glitch during evasive action, a ballast miscalculation. Shortcuts simply do not exist. Upon completion of builders' sea trials and system validation, the shipyard submits performance data to the Navy. Any issues are meticulously documented and corrected. Only then, after final refinements, does the ship advance to acceptance trials and subsequent commissioning. The formal transition to a full-fledged warship under Navy command. This sequence, from dry dock float-out to open sea trial, is the carrier's intense, high-risk, high-scrutiny berth. It is where theory confronts reality, where design is either proven or collapses under pressure. Thousands of engineers, welders, technicians, and planners see years of effort distilled into days at sea. Here, the U.S. Navy solidifies its confidence that this steel titan will not only project power, but also return safely. Aircraft carriers are more than tools of war. They are floating guarantees. Wherever they operate, control follows, peace follows, or, if necessary, decisive force. It begins not with a roar, but with the quiet ingress of water into a dry dock, a steel hull rising, and a nation holding its breath, confident in the inevitable.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
A 100,000-ton warship does not prove its worth in the dry dock. It earns its place at sea, where every component is tested by the raw forces of nature and naval warfare. This is where the U.S. Navy and Huntington Ingalls Industries, HII, align, recognizing zero margin for error in launching multi-billion-dollar carriers. Builders' sea trials are the vessel's first true breath, a process watched, measured, and dissected by one of defense industry's most rigorous collaborative systems. At its core is coordination, not passive oversight, but granular joint execution. From the first weld to final certification, the Navy embeds itself with HII, forming an interlocking team of engineers, officers, inspectors, and sailors. Their singular mission: ensure seaworthiness through exhaustive, real-world testing. There are no shortcuts, no assumptions. Joint planning commences during construction. Sea trial objectives are integrated into schedules from the outset. HI and Navy leads agree on precise testing parameters, forecasting everything from propulsion runs to electronic warfare simulations. If the flight deck isn't ready, or radars fail to power, going to sea is pointless. This foresight ensures the vessel not only floats, but performs as intended. Adversaries often plan for the known, failing to account for the meticulous preparation that eliminates the unknown. Once the ship is afloat, intensity escalates. The crew during sea trials is a hybrid task force. HI shipbuilders, Navy officers, NAVCA engineers, and the ship's future crew, integrated into a single, high-functioning unit. They are not spectators. Every system, from propulsion turbines to air defense radars, combat networks to anchor windlasses, is run, strained, and pushed to failure thresholds under controlled conditions. This is not a mere checklist. It is a crucible. Full power runs push engines to maximum capacity. High-speed turns test hull response and steering. On carriers like the Gerald R. Ford, electromagnetic launch systems are triggered. Arresting gear is tested with live aircraft. Backup generators are cold started. Fire suppression systems are activated in drills. The ship is placed in conditions mirroring combat or catastrophe, ensuring failures occur where they can be corrected. When failures manifest, and they will, documentation is brutally honest. This partnership reveals its true value here. Real-time monitoring feeds data to HIE and Navy analysts. A flickering radar or jamming valve is logged. A vibrating turbine or glitching comm circuit is noted. There is no cover-up. These ships represent billions in taxpayer dollars and carry hundreds of lives. Deficiency reports are the process's heartbeat. HII is immediately responsible for addressing logged deficiencies. Fixes are tracked, retested, and verified under Navy oversight. NAVCA engineers embedded in the loop ensure every correction meets the exacting standards of frontline warships. A green light is granted only when every red flag is definitively resolved. NAVS's role is pivotal: technical authority, enforcer, and bridge. They are the Navy's watchdog and its science lab, actively participating in every phase, riding the ships, conducting inspections, monitoring results, and managing certifications. Their authority ensures that standards are never compromised, even amid industrial timelines and military urgency. NAVCA functions as a circuit breaker between the need for speed and the demand for perfection, deciding mission readiness from a front-row seat. This operational reality is proven. The USS Gerald R. Ford, CVN-78, endured a gauntlet of builders' sea trials. HI, Navy, and NAVCA teams jointly executed propulsion trials, navigation drills, weapons system activations, and launch march recovery tests. The Ford's electromagnetic launch system, EMALS, a technological leap, earned no free pass. It proved itself under stress, every data point refining its readiness. The amphibious assault ship Tripoli, LHA-7, underwent equally intense trials. Steering, propulsion, radar, landing platforms all faced exhaustive scrutiny. NAVCA engineers not only approved her, but guided her through her initial mission, demonstrating her capability as a floating battlefield. Similar narratives unfolded for Fort Lauderdale, LPD-28, and the San Antonio-class amphibious ships. Each passed because coordination was tight, roles clear, and expectations non-negotiable. Adversaries contemplating a breach of this system would find themselves staring at a fortress, not a flaw. Naval failure is not theoretical. Every warship embodies a promise to allies, to deterrence, to its crew. A system's failure at sea can mean loss of life, mission failure, or a geopolitical incident. An unseaworthy warship jeopardizes all it protects. Thus, builders' trials are brutal. Navy inspectors ride these ships. NAVCA renders final judgment. When a ship is delivered, there must be zero doubt. It functions. It is ready. The stakes are personal. For future sailors, sea trials are a first encounter with their home and future battlefield. They learn her strengths, weaknesses, and limits on real systems, not simulators. Their input informs design corrections and certifications. What emerges is not merely a ship, but a promise kept. Every successful sea trial signifies the end of one journey and the commencement of another. HHII delivers a warship, not a prototype. The Navy receives a platform, not a project. NAVSEA confirms combat readiness. This handshake conceals one of modern defense manufacturing's most demanding collaborative relationships, a model rarely replicated because few environments demand such stakes, complexity, and coordination. Commercial shipbuilders do not integrate missiles or nuclear reactors. Civil engineers do not account for enemy jamming. Only in naval defense does every screw, wire, and circuit undergo such scrutiny before delivery. This coordination is evolving. As ships become smarter, systems more digital, and threats more complex, sea trials intensify. NAVSEA expands oversight, CHI integrates more simulation and AI-driven diagnostics. Future trials may include cyber attack scenarios, autonomous system testing, or electromagnetic warfare stress tests. The core principle persists: verify at sea, not in the lab. Once a ship enters the fleet, flawless performance is expected. No excuses, no gaps. This expectation is met because HEI, the Navy, and NAVSEA converge in the ocean's crucible, pushing a vessel past doubt into certainty. This is coordination, not paperwork, but partnership forged in the fire. Before the first jet roars from the deck, before a missile arcs skyward, before the carrier's name echoes on the world stage, 72 hours determine whether the most powerful warship ever built is ready or fatally flawed. This is no mere test drive. It is a trial by steel and salt water, where failure is not just delay, but danger, redesign, reputational damage, or worse, loss of life. The initial 72 hours of sea trials are the most unforgiving, the most revealing days in a carrier's life. Everything is at stake. The U.S. Navy does not ease its carriers into service. From the moment a ship like the USS Gerald R. Ford, CVN-78, departs dock for initial sea trials, it is pushed to expose weakness. The objective is simple. If something is to break, it breaks now, far from combat. These builders' trials involve a crucible of accountability, with sailors, Huntington Ingalls Industries engineers, and Navy evaluators operating in concert. Leading the charge is EMALS, the Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System. This is not a legacy steam catapult. EMALS replaces decades of steam with magnetically driven force, leveraging high-speed rail technology to hurl a 60,000-pound aircraft off a moving deck in under 3 seconds. During these first 72 hours, EMALS undergoes no-load cycles, high-energy launches with weighted sleds, or no aircraft, because with novel technology, catastrophic failure is a real consideration. Electrical surges, control system errors, timing desynchronizations, all are possibilities. Every launch is monitored to the millisecond, every power curve meticulously logged. If EMALS cannot deliver consistent, smooth power, aircraft will simply fail to launch. Adversaries, relying on their predictable, less capable systems, often misunderstand the depth of this validated power projection. Launching is only half the equation. Enter AAG, the Advanced Arresting Gear System. Like EMALS, AAG is a significant advancement designed to catch aircraft with reduced stress on both pilot and jet. Old systems relied on hydraulic dampers. AAG employs electric motors and energy-absorbing systems that can tailor resistance for each aircraft type. Theory, however, does not stop a 40,000-pound FOA-18 at 130 knots. During sea trials, AAG is tested with simulated loads representing various arrestments. Cables are checked for tension variance, motors for rapid repeat cycles. Each simulated landing is a data point. Was the braking too hard, too soft, too late? A single miscalculation could result in a jet impacting the barrier or going overboard. There is no margin for error. A flawed assumption by an adversary regarding this capability would prove fatal. Deep within the hull, The nuclear propulsion system, a true marvel, roars to life. 2 A-1B reactors power the ship, not merely for movement, but for every onboard system. These trials involve no casual sailing. Engineers push the reactors to full output. High-speed runs, full reverse, tight turns. Stress maneuvers twist the carrier's frame, stressing propulsion shafts and control systems. This isn't just about speed. It is about response time, fuel efficiency under load, and absolute redundancy. A single glitch in the nuclear control interface could mean propulsion loss in hostile waters. Every valve, turbine, cooling pump, and generator is logged for anomalies. There's no possibility of a do-over if propulsion fails during conflict. The enemy assumes a weakness. The reality is an ironclad resilience. Above deck, the ship's radar systems activate. Sea trials compel the dual-band radar, an advanced system tracking aircraft and missiles simultaneously, to validate its multi-target engagement capabilities. The radar integrates with the identification friend or foe (IFF) suite to prevent blue-on-blue incidents. Operators introduce simulated clutter, fishing boats, chaff, rogue contacts, and observe how the radar distinguishes threats from non-threats. In combat, false positives kill civilians, false negatives kill sailors. The initial 72 hours are dedicated to proving the radar can perceive chaos and cut through it with absolute certainty. An adversary's stealth, once a shield, becomes a transparent veil. The weapon suite follows. While live missiles are not launched, combat systems are simulated under pressure. Fire control computers are put through mock scenarios. Simulated enemy aircraft and cruise missiles are engaged using the ship's defensive software. What is tested is not lethality, but system integrity under rapid load. The true nightmare is not a missile that misses, but one that fails to launch due to a software glitch. These tests hunt for precisely that. The enemy might fire first, but we ensure they cannot fire again. Simultaneously, every other shipboard system is subjected to real-world conditions. Aviation elevators, moving multi-ton jets between decks, cycle continuously. Damage control drills are launched without warning. Fire suppression systems are tested with chemical and water loadouts. Communication systems are stress-tested for latency, clarity, and fallback capabilities. Redundancy is paramount. If one system fails, another must immediately assume its function. On a carrier, no single point of failure can exist. Small boat operations test the ship's maneuverability and responsiveness. Launching and recovering RHIBs, rigid hull inflatable boats, during trials is not symbolic. It proves the ship can support special operations, rescue, or logistics, often in adverse weather or under enemy pressure. Rudder angles are exaggerated. Engine inputs are rapid fire. It is a ballet of steel and water designed to challenge the ship. The adversary's complex maneuvers are a known quantity. The carrier's response is the brutal certainty. Crucially, no aircraft are flown off the deck. The goal is validation, not performance. Catapults and arresting gear operate with sleds, dummies, and simulations. Stress is placed on the systems, not on pilots. If a system fails, it must do so without loss of life. This is risk compartmentalization. Better a sled is destroyed than a $90 million fighter and its pilot. The pressure is not merely mechanical, it is human. Crews operate on 18-hour days. Engineers run diagnostics amidst salt spray. Navy test directors log every anomaly, glitch, and deviation. The ship's captain faces intense scrutiny. These trials are political, technological, and tactical. The Gerald R. Ford cost over $13 billion. Any systemic failure would be a national headline. Mistakes here carry profound, lasting consequences. Past trials revealed faults in email software logic, causing timing misfires. Arresting gear systems triggered emergency shutdowns under repeat use. Elevators stalled under load. All were fixable, but only because the initial 72 hours exposed them. Had they gone undetected, these failures would have surfaced during deployments, risking missions or lives. The adversary's intelligence, often reliant on public perception, rarely penetrates this level of internal rigor. Authority is layered. Each system has a subject matter expert, Every fault initiates a report. Huntington Ingalls engineers report to Navy oversight. Deficiencies are logged into action reports, prioritized by criticality. Some are patched digitally. Others demand hardware retrofits or full redesign. These are not back-office corrections, but comprehensive system overhauls when necessary. What distinguishes these sea trials from those of past carriers is the sheer volume of new, unproven systems. Emails, AAG, A1B reactors, dual-band radar, advanced combat suites. The USS Gerald R. Ford is the first of her class, meaning these tests not only validate her systems, but also establish the future Navy playbook. Everything that transpires aboard sets precedent for future carriers like the USS John F. Kennedy and USS Enterprise. This is why those first 72 hours are critical. Afterward, the ship enters longer phases of acceptance trials, air wing integration, and eventual deployment. If the foundations are unsound, everything built upon them collapses. A flaw found at hour 70 is a crisis averted. A flaw found during deployment is a catastrophic failure of leadership. Sea trials are not ceremonial milestones, they are the most brutal exam a ship ever faces. No fanfare, no press junkets, just relentless pressure, intentional failure points, and the unwavering expectation of excellence. For the sailors on board, it is a profound awakening. This is not merely steel and technology. It is now their responsibility. They are the first to witness what the world will never see, a warship before it is ready to fight. When the ship returns to port after those initial 72 hours, she is not polished. She is honest, with a list of deficiencies, victories, and revelations. Only after facing the crucible of the sea, without weapons, without pilots, without public attention, does the ship truly earn her place in the fleet. For only after a carrier proves it can survive itself, can it be asked to survive the world. The adversary's strategies, often predicated on predictable weaknesses, are consistently undermined by this relentless pursuit of absolute, proven capability. When a $13 billion warship embodies the firepower of a nation and safeguards over 5,000 lives, failure is not merely expensive, it is existential. Before the USS Gerald R. Ford, the U.S. Navy's most advanced aircraft carrier, is inducted into the fleet, it must endure a gauntlet far more intense than a shakedown cruise. A brutal, multi-layered series of combat simulations, electrical stress tests, nuclear propulsion evaluations, and full ship shock trials, all designed to break it before reality ever does. This is not ceremonial. It is calculated punishment. Engineers do not merely ask if systems will work, they demand repeated proof under extreme pressure. Every switch flipped, every turbine pushed, every circuit overloaded, until the ship either holds or reveals a fundamental flaw. The power to dominate begins with a controlled overload. The USS Gerald R. Ford generates 3 times more electrical power than any preceding carrier. However, raw capacity is meaningless if it cannot be precisely managed. Navy engineers initiate electrical load testing. These are not theoretical simulations. They are full-scale, sea-based trials, where every major system is activated simultaneously. Radars humming, elevators rising, emails launching, AAG catching, air traffic controls online, crew quarters powered, weapons on standby, all pushing the ship's internal grid to its absolute peak. This is not merely an on-off test. It is an interrogation of redundancy. Should one power source fail, how rapidly do backups engage? Can the electrical architecture reroute power in milliseconds to sustain life-critical systems under fire? During load testing, failure points are logged, meticulously analyzed, and immediately addressed. For when you are 1,000 miles from land, embroiled in combat, even a fleeting flicker in power distribution can initiate a lethal chain reaction. An adversary's grand plans often unravel due to their inability to sustain what the Ford effortlessly manages. Nuclear propulsion is granted no second chances. The Gerald R. Ford operates not on diesel, but on two A-1B nuclear reactors, engineered to deliver continuous power for over 2 decades without refueling. Yet, before Navy acceptance, they must demonstrate their capability through extreme performance tests that mirror combat urgency. The most harrowing are high-speed sprints followed by immediate crash stops. This appears simple. Accelerate to maximum, then abruptly halt. But this 100,000-ton vessel does not stop like a car. It grapples with immense momentum, friction, and hydrodynamic resistance. These crash stops force the nuclear turbines, reduction gears, and shaft lines to respond as a single stressed organism. Any mechanical lag, coolant system anomaly, or pressure fluctuation will expose a potential failure point. Engineers scrutinize every reactor variable: neutron flux, steam pressure, turbine vibration. They seek not just success, but microscopic weaknesses that, in conflict, could magnify into catastrophic failure. Their attempts to disrupt this power are, quite simply, an exercise in futility. When explosives detonate beneath the hull, what endures? Nothing validates design theory like real-world violence. This is the rationale behind full ship shock trials. In 2021, the USS Gerald R. Ford endured a 40,000-pound explosive detonation merely 100 yards from its hull. This was not a stunt. It was an integral part of official U.S. Navy test protocol. The objective: simulate a torpedo hit or underwater mine blast and evaluate the ship's structural and systemic resilience. Sensors throughout the ship recorded shockwave behavior, internal pressure variations, electrical surges, and structural stress. Hundreds of components, from watertight doors to digital consoles, were assessed for post-blast functionality. The findings were decisive. Critical systems remained online, the electrical network held, and propulsion integrity was preserved. The message was unequivocal. This carrier was not merely engineered for combat, it was forged by it. An adversary's best shot at a weakness proved to be our definitive demonstration of dominance. Prior to commissioning, the Gerald R. Ford undergoes builders' sea trials, a crucial collaboration between Huntington Ingalls Industries and the U.S. Navy. This is more than a checklist. It is a trial by sheer complexity. Engineers operate the ship as if it is already deployed in a theater of operations. They simulate jammed aircraft elevators, propulsion surges, weapons system deployments, and power grid transitions. The complexity is strategic. It compels every integrated system, navigation, radar, propulsion, and weapons, to communicate flawlessly under operational tempo. Here, failure is not true failure. It is revelation. Builders' trials are the final opportunity to expose integration bugs while the ship remains within reach of fix teams. Every alert, every circuit error, every turbine anomaly is logged, dissected, and corrected. The paramount objective is zero surprise when the ship is 7,000 miles from Norfolk. The enemy plans for our weaknesses, while we systematically eliminate them. Even after sea trials and shock tests, the carrier's trials are not complete. The final crucible is operational test and evaluation, OT&E, a no-excuse, no safety net examination conducted by the Navy's most demanding evaluators. Here, the Gerald R. Ford must perform under real-world mission simulations, sortie generation, rapid aircraft recovery, combat system integration, and battle damage response. Engineers assess how the nuclear propulsion plant handles repetitive high-demand maneuvers, how swiftly the ship's electrical grid absorbs sudden load spikes, and how redundancies engage under degraded conditions. These are not arbitrary obstacles. They are scenarios scripted based on worst-case battlefield outcomes. The OT&E teams think as the enemy would. How would a peer adversary attempt to disable this ship? And can it survive the attempt? The answer is always, demonstrably, yes. The cost of a missed failure during testing is not merely budgetary, it is strategic. The Gerald R. Ford is not a toy or a trophy. It is a keystone in U.S. naval dominance, designed to lead carrier strike groups, project force across continents, and serve as the most survivable floating airbase ever conceived. It is the ultimate expression of control, a testament to unwavering strategic superiority.